some problems inside that party. That historical thing you may all may be knowing. So I'm not going for that to describe what that historical background regarding this bank nationalization. Anyhow, on that day, 100% of the shares of 14 major private sector banks in the country was to take over by government of India. Subsequently, on April 15th, 1980, another 6 more banks were nationalized. Anyhow, the strategic objective behind this move was to channel the savings of ordinary people into national development and upliftment of poorer section of the society, rather than leaving them to exploited monopolies. I'm not taking much time. You may be knowing when we are on this day, that is the 57th year of bank nationalization, what all things are happening in banking industry, what all things are happening in our economic scenario. Everything is with us. Now the government of India, they are planning to, for again another merger to make 12 banks again is to be brought down. That is the proposal now before government of India. Not only that, foreign direct investment in public sector banks, that also they are planning to bring it to 49%. Now it is 20%. That also you may be knowing. Now, this time Bank Employees Federation of India has decided to have a webinar. Usually you may be knowing in the webinar, one person will be addressing and others will be listening. But this time we took a decision that in our central committee meeting, which was held in Simla, in that meeting, we decided about this webinar. And as per that decision, on 5 subjects, our comrades, they are presenting different subjects on these 5 subjects, and they will be presenting that. And anyhow, before going for that, I request Comrade General Secretary to have a welcome address and to explain something about this webinar. Over to General Secretary, Comrade Debashish. Comrade Debashish.
Oh, Comrade, thank you, Comrade, President. Actually, today we have requested all our speakers to make their presentation in writing. Okay. So they will be presenting from a written note to you. And following them, I will also place before you a written introduction in this webinar. The Comrade S.S. Anil, chairperson of this webinar, as well as president of our federation, distinguished speakers, leaders of BFI, comrades, and friends. On behalf of BFI, I extend my revolutionary greetings and warmly welcome all of you to this webinar commemorating the 58th Bank Nationalization Day. 19th July is not merely a date in the history of banking. It symbolizes the victory of the people's aspiration to bring the country's financial resources under social control. Bank nationalization in 1969 was the outcome of sustained struggles of our predecessors and a recognition that the banking system could not remain captive to a handful of monopoly business houses, while the vast majority of the people were deprived of institutional credit. It transformed banking from an instrument of private profit into an instrument of national development. Today, however, the very achievements of bank nationalizations are under unprecedented attack, guided by neoliberal policies and under pressure from powerful corporate interests. Successive governments have pursued privatization, disinvestment, outsourcing, and commercialization of banking. The proposed strategic sale of IDBI Bank, dilution of public ownership, encouragement to private banks, and weakening of public sector banks are all parts of the same agenda. It is therefore both timely and necessary that we assemble today to reaffirm our commitment to defend public sector banks. Today's discussion revolves around 5 significant topics. The first topic, nationalized banks guarantee economic sovereignty, reminds us that no nation can preserve its economic independence if its financial system is controlled by private corporate interests. Public sector banks have financed agriculture, small industries, education, infrastructure, self-employment, and priority sectors. During the global financial crisis of 2008 and other periods of instability, India's banking system remained comparatively resilient because of the dominant role of public sector banks. Economic sovereignty demands a strong and expanding public banking system, not its dismantling. The second topic, nationalized banks generate secured employment for the youth, highlights one of the greatest social contributions of bank nationalization. Millions of young people obtained secure employment through transparent recruitment based on constitutional principles, including reservation for scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, other backward classes, and other eligible categories like physically challenged, ex-servicemen, etc. Women entered the banking workforce in large numbers. Today, regular recruitment is shrinking while outsourcing contractual employment and apprenticeships are expanding. The fight to defend public sector banks is inseparable from the fight to protect secure permanent employment with dignity. The third topic, nationalized banks must not encourage exploitation, calls attention to the disturbing trend of casualization of work. Public institutions cannot justify exploitation in the name of efficiency or profitability. Temporary employees, business correspondents, outsourced workers, daily wages, and apprentices are increasingly performing regular banking work without equal wages, minimum wages, job security, or social security. Such practices contradict both labor rights and the original objectives of bank nationalization. Banking services must be strengthened through regular recruitment, human working conditions, and respect for every worker or employee free from exploitation. The fourth topic, nationalized banks should not promote religious ideas, reaffirms the secular foundations of our republic. Public sector banks belong equally to every citizen, irrespective of religion, caste, language, or region. Their workplaces and customer services must remain completely free from communal or sectorial influences. Any attempt to introduce religious symbolism, religious appeal involving banking services for a particular region, religion's activities and program, or discriminatory practices into public institutions undermines constitutional values and weakens the confidence of the people. Nationalized banks must stand firmly for secularism, equality, and social harmony. The fifth topic, nationalized banks are subjected to loot and plunder, exposes the organized transfer of public wealth to private hands. While ordinary borrowers are subjected to strict recovery measures, large corporate defaulters have often accepted accountability through write-offs, restructuring, and other concessions. Public money collected from millions of depositors cannot become a source of enrichment for a few powerful corporate houses. Privatization itself is another form of transferring valuable public assets built over decades into private hands. This must be resisted unitedly by employees, customers, and all democratic sections of the society. Comrades, the struggle to defend public sector banks is not confined to bank employees. Farmers need public sector banks. Small and medium entrepreneurs need public sector banks. Students, women, pensioners, workers, and the common people need public sector banks. The future of inclusive development, financial stability, and social justice depends upon strengthening, not weakening, the public sector banking system. It is needed for the entire country. As we observe the 58th Bank Nationalization Day, let us resolve to intensify our campaign against privatization, defend labor rights, strengthen public ownership, and build broad-based unity with the working class, peasantry, youth, women, and all democratic forces for strengthening of the public sector banking system. I am confident that today's speakers, who are quite capable to carry the organization in the turbulent time, will illuminate these five topics and provide all of us with clarity, direction for the struggles ahead. With these words, I once again welcome every participant to this important webinar. And before stopping, I will request all the speakers to keep their video on while presenting their topics. Thank you, comrades. Over to Comrade.
Okay, comrade, thank you very much. So today, five subjects are there, and altogether 9 comrades from different parts of our country. They are presenting the subject. First topic is nationalist bank guarantee economic sovereignty. Two comrades will be talking about the subject, that is Venugopal and Pranjal Saikia. Then the second subject, Nationalist Bank generate secured employment for the youth. Two comrades, that is the Nitish Kumar and Devika. Both of them will be speaking on this subject. And the third subject, that is the nationalist banks must not encourage exploitation. One comrade is speaking on that subject, that is Comrade Venkatesh. And the fourth subject, nationalist banks should not promote religious ideas. Two comrades are presenting that is Panis Sona and another one is Sri Moi. And the last subject, that is the nationalist banks are subjected to loot and plunder. Sadish from Telangana and Neelamani Urmila, both the three comrades are speaking on the subject. So I will call one by one. First, I request the first subject, that is nationalist bank guarantee economic sovereignty. I request Comrade Venugopal from Andhra Pradesh to present uh, on that subject, to present his views on that subject. Over to Comrade Venugopal. Comrade Venugopal, can you hear me? Comrade Venugopal from Andhra, whether he is there in
Sir,
the meeting?
good evening, sir. I'm audible, sir.
Yeah, yes. Now you can present the
Thank you, sir.
subject. Oh, okay.
Respected President, sir, respected Under Secretary, sir, and all dear comrades who have attended, who are joined this webinar on the occasion of 58th Bank Nationalization Day. I warmly greet you all from the state of AP and all the banks represented from Andhra Pradesh. It's been a wonderful day actually, and I sincerely thank Kerala BIFI team for organizing such a wonderful or hosting this wonderful webinar. And I have been allotted with the topic National Banks Guarantee Economic Sovereignty. It's before I start, I would like to add that these are turbulent times actually. The world is going through many such things where we could have covered more actually. But I will stick to the topic. And as it is known, a strong nation is not built only on its by its soldiers at the borders, but also by the financial institutions that protects its economy. I firmly believe that national banks of our India are such institutions. Dear comrades, let me ask one simple question: Can our country become truly independent only politically, but not financially? I believe the answer is no, because true independence is not political independence; it is economic independence. Actually, economic sovereignty, it's simple. It it makes economic decisions, protect its people, develop its industries, strengthen its villages, and build a self-reliant future. A nation becomes truly strong only when every citizen has equal opportunity to save, borrow, invest, and grow. As I aptly remember Mahatma Gandhi ji, who stated that the soul of real India lives in its villages. So if our villages prosper, India prospers, and that is exactly where the national banks have made history. A simple story before starting all this. Suppose imagine a farmer who is living in a remote village 50 years ago. The rainy season is approaching. He has his land, he has his seeds, but to buy the seeds and the fertilizers, he has to go to a bank nearby, and there was none at that time. At the time, the banks were only for the rich and the persons who are having something, and everybody was not included. They were not covered with the banking system. Now, imagine now a farmer wants to till his field, he goes to the bank, he opens an account, he gets his farmer's loan, he gets his education loan, his daughter and son may get education loan, his wife joins a SHG and start a small business. So there are wonderful opportunities which are being provided by the national banks, and that is the true meaning of national banking. As I aptly said earlier also, the real soul of our India lies in the villages. Though, so let me take back to the historic decision which was happened in the 1969. In the 1969, before 1969, all the banks were private actually. They were open to the persons who were educated, who were having money for them only. But it was an historic decision by the government of that time to nationalize 14 banks, and later on in the 1980s, the 6 banks were again nationalized. And the decision was not merely a banking reform. Actually, I would say that it is an economic revolution. It changed the philosophy of banking from the banking for the few to the banking for the many. And financial inclusion. Financial inclusion, as you know, though it started early, but it picked up its pace after 2014, and every Indian were brought under the purview of the banking. Everybody got an account. It was not only privilege for the rich; it became a right actually for every citizen to have a banking account, through which all the governments, all the benefits that are being given to them. Earlier, though it is a political, I would not quote, but if the government is sending 1,000 rupees to a man in the village, in the remote village, I am very proud to say that only the banks are such institutions where the amount 1,000 rupees reaches exactly as 1,000 rupees into the hands of them for their future needs. So when the farmer becomes stronger, our security becomes stronger, and the agriculture grows, and India grows. So not only that, we are also encouraging the entrepreneurs. So National Bank not only supports the rich and big financial institutions and industries, it also supports the SMEs. So now, if we, as on yesterday, I was watching TV, so we could see that the private spacecraft have reached the orbit. So these all, who is all funding this for them? Only because our nationalist banks have been very eagerly and very interestingly supporting all the persons who are available in the bank for that loan purposes or anything. So, as Abdul Kalamji once said, dream is not what you see while sleeping. Dream is something that does not let you sleep. So, national banks definitely transform those dreams into the reality. So, if it comes to the topic of welfare and social justice, so the national banks are not merely financial institutions; they are also instruments of social justice. They deliver government schemes, many government schemes like PM Jandan Yojana, direct benefit transfers for gas and scholarships, wages, salaries. So where not? We are everywhere. Banking is, the national banks are spurring the very growth of the Indian growth. So not only that, we are ensuring that the right benefit reaches the right beneficiary, and safely and transparently. That also, the national banks are providing education loans, housing loans, loans to the women entrepreneurs, finance to the self-help groups, support to our artisans and small traders. They create an equal opportunity for everyone. Not that only house will be coming, but have-nots will also be coming it. But the true strength of any institution lies when it faces the problems, especially difficult times. So, as many of you remember, we have worked under very tough conditions during the Corona times, when many government departments, even the central government departments, were not working. The national banks, the staff of the national bank were they endangering our lives and were serving the common man to the remotest of the villages without any interruption. And we have given that commitment, and we should cherish actually the commitment shown by all our staff to serve the public. So, and as every institution goes through, banking also has undergone various changes actually. So in this, now we are in the age of digital. The scope of digital banking is changing. So one day, if you want to take a withdrawal of even 100 rupees, you are supposed to stand for 1 hour and wait in the line. But gone are the days. Now you could simply scan a bar scanner and could pay from anywhere in India to anywhere in the world. Even our banking, especially the UPI, are reached due to the many part of the banking, many part of the world where our persons working in the foreign also, they can simply use, or the person visiting the foreign countries also may simply scan and pay the amount. But the same way, though bankings are updating itself, they are updating itself continuously, but still we're behind some schedule, some places where we have to spend a lot of money on the infrastructure to create this infrastructure. So once the technology takes over the banking, the experience will be truly happy for everyone. National banks have embraced this also with all the technological advances, and they have never forgotten the commitment to serve the public. So today, the economic sovereignty also means digital sovereignty. So please remember this aspect of the banking. So normally, no institution is perfect. National banks are also having many problems, many challenges. They must improve the customer service. They have to embrace the technological faster, reduce delays, and strengthen the financial discipline. But continuous improvement is essential, of course. However, while discussing the challenges, we must never forget the enormous contributions made by our national banks for the last 5 decades in the development of India. So not only that, we should always remember the comrades who have laid their lives serving for the our banks during the corona or in this way of duty. They have faced some accidents in recent times also, I could see. But still, our banking fraternity is always ready to do the what is need for the banking for the people of the country. So let me leave with one final thought. A country's greatness is not measured by the wealth of few people. It is measured by the opportunities to available to every citizen. So national banks have made these opportunities possible. They have financed our farmers, they have financed the women entrepreneurs, and empowered our youth. So only we need to dream big enough and reach out the bank, and the banks are ready to, national banks are ready to fulfill your dreams. So we should always, the government especially should always believe that strong banks build strong people, and strong people build a strong economy. So and they should aptly support us for that. Not only that, we have to continue the value, strengthen and modernize our national banks that every citizen participate in our India's journey towards a prosperous, inclusive, and self-reliant future. Thank you, comrades, for all the patient listening. And with the revolutionary greeting, I will express my greeting, my heartfelt greetings to all of you for attending this webinar on this day. Thank you, comrades.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Comrade Venugopal. Anyhow, one thing is there, you have taken correct 10 minutes, means just 10 minutes you had taken. 16 at 6:45, 48 it was started, and he concluded at 6:58. And the points raised by him, that also you might have heard. He has quoted Mahatma Gandhi and Abdul Kalam. Both these people there he has quoted, and he has clearly mentioned how nationalized banks stood for the development of the nation, especially our villages, and also how it transformed the dreams to reality. It has been explained well. It is well. Thank you once again, Comrade Venugopal. Now I request Comrade Nitish Kumar Mishra from Jharkhand to present his views regarding nationalized banks generate secured employment for. Yeah, I request Comrade Nitish Kumar Mishra to speak on this subject. That is, nationalized bank generate secured employment for the youth. Over to Comrade Nitish. Comrade Nitish, can you hear me? Nitish Kumar is not here, huh? Any comrades from Jharkhand? Then Nitish Kumar is attending this meeting? Okay, then Devika, whether are you ready, Comrade Devika? Devika Mohanakrishnan from Tamil Nadu. I will call Nitish afterward. I request Comrade Devika Mohanakrishnan from Tamil Nadu to speak on the subject, that is Nationalized Bank generate secured employment for youth. Comrade Devika.
Comrade Devika, your co-host, you can speak now.
Devika? Pardon? She will speak now, huh? Devika is there. Devika, can you hear me? Can you speak now? No, you are mute. You please unmute, Comrade Devika. Otherwise, with the permission of Devika, now a request has come from Comrade Sona that you might have read. Her mother is not well, and so she has to leave the meeting within a short time. So may I permit Comrade Sona to speak? Devika.
Yes, comrade, sure.
Yeah. Then, okay, Comrade Sona from Kerala. She will be speaking on the subject.
Sorry, everyone.
Nationalized Bank should not promote religious. Yeah. Okay, Comrade Sona. Over to you.
Sorry for this request. I don't know whether I'll have to take her. So that my presentation is not interrupted, I requested this. Sorry, everyone. And warm welcome and greetings to all comrades. Let me present my paper. I know this is a very vast and very deep subject which raises so much concerns in present days. Rather than discussing it in a general way, I would like to structure my presentation around 4 key themes. Together, these 4 aspects, I think, will help us understand why religious neutrality is not merely an administrative choice for public sector banks, but a constitutional obligation and a democratic necessity. The themes are: 1, the constitutional doctrine of secularism; 2, judicial precedents on secularism and state neutrality; and the third point I would like is the purpose of bank nationalization and the philosophy of bank nationalization; and the fourth one, which is the important one and closely related to the theme of the presentation, public sector banks becoming vehicles of religious agendas, contemporary concerns. The first point, the Constitution of India, the doctrine of secularism. The Constitution of India envisions a secular state that maintains principled neutrality towards all religions. It guarantees every individual the freedom to profess, practice, propagate religion. Like in many articles, I have kept the references, while ensuring equality before the law and prohibiting discrimination on religious grounds. The state may regulate secular aspects of religious institutions in the public interest, but it cannot identify itself with or promote any particular religion. As affirmed by the Supreme Court, secularism is part of the basic structure of the Constitution, making it foundational principle that cannot be diluted even through constitutional amendment. That is a very important point of Indian Constitution. The public institutions, therefore, must remain impartial, inclusive, and committed to serving all citizens equally, irrespective of faith. Unlike many European secular state models, there are many models of secularism in the whole world, but in India, it does not exclude religion from public life, nor does it establish any official religion. Instead, India follows the principle of equal respect combined with state neutrality. The Constitution protects religion, but the state cannot become religious. This distinction is fundamental. Individual citizens possess religion, but public institutions possess constitutional obligations. The Supreme Court has repeatedly emphasized this distinction. So many Supreme Court rulings and this thing has come on this. The one observation by Supreme Court was, in matters of state, religion has no place, very clearly, and that secularism requires equal treatment of all religions. This has very profound implications. If religion has no place in state policy, public sector banks, being state instrumentalities performing public functions, must also avoid becoming instruments of promoting any religion. And the second point, judicial precedents on secularism and state neutrality. I have taken references from so many Supreme Court rulings, judgments, and observations, which I am not going to give fully. I can give the paper, scan paper to the chair afterwards, because so many are there, it may take more time. And in one thing, Supreme Court is saying that The state cannot identify itself with or promote any religion. This principle is directly relevant to nationalized banks as state instrumentalities. Then Bijoy Emmanuel versus State of Kerala. In this, the rights of students were protected who declined to sing or refused to sing the national anthem because of their religious beliefs, holding that the state must respect freedom of conscience. This illustrates that the state must remain neutral towards all faiths. And one in another case of Aruna Roy versus Union of India, the Supreme Court distinguished between education about religions and promotion of religion, reiterating that the state cannot indoctrinate or favor any particular faith. Then Ismail Faruqi versus Union of India, so many other with the Ayodhya case, reference to the Ayodhya case. This also bench affirms that secularism is a basic feature of the Constitution and described the Places of Worship Act 1991 as a legislative commitment to preserve India's secular order. It says that a public sector bank belongs equally to every citizen. It cannot have a religion because the Constitution itself does not permit the state to identify with or favor any religion. And my third point is the purpose and philosophy of bank nationalization. Bank nationalization was not merely an economic decision, it was a social revolution. When 14 major commercial banks were nationalized in 1969, the objective was clear: to make banking serve the people rather than private profit or sectorial interests. When the 14 major banks were nationalized, India was attempting to transform its economy. The purpose was never simply government ownership, the purpose was social control over finance. As Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi repeatedly argued, banking should become an instrument of national development rather than private accumulation. This philosophy later came to be known as social banking. The objective was to ensure that public money should serve agriculture, small industries, weaker sections, education, employment, region development, poverty alleviation. Means religion was never part of this vision. Neither Parliament nor the Reserve Bank of India envisaged banks as institutions for religious mobilization. Their role was economic, democracy, and social development. Consequently, constitutional principles of equality, fairness, and secularism became relevant to their functioning. When the Constitution expects the state to remain neutral among religions, institutions of the state cannot ordinarily identify themselves with one particular religion. Banks are statutory bodies and instrumentalities of the state under Article 12, and therefore they are bound by constitutional principles. The Indian model of secularism, constitutional foundations of banking have been given in so many parts of the Constitution. In the preamble of the Constitution, example, the Constitution describes India as a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Secularism is therefore not merely an aspiration; it is part of India's constitutional identity. In Article 14, equality before law. Every customer entering a public sector bank must receive equal treatment. No citizen should perceive that the institution belongs more to one religious community than another. In Article 15 again, the state shall not discriminate on grounds of religion. Although banking decisions are commercial, institutional behavior must also avoid creating impressions of religious preferences. Article 25 to 28, these articles guarantee freedom of conscience, freedom of religion, management of religious affairs, prohibition on compelling citizens to support particular religions through taxation in specified ways, limits on religious instructions in state-funded educational institutions. These provisions together demonstrate that while religion enjoys protection, public institutions must remain or maintain neutrality. In Article 51A again, fundamental duties require citizens, it should promote harmony, preserve composite culture, develop scientific temper, uphold constitutional ideals. Surely institutions created by Parliament should exemplify these constitutional values even more than individual citizens. So why neutrality matters in banking? A bank is unlike a private association. People cannot choose whether government welfare reaches them through banking or not. It's not. But the government welfare reaches through banking too. In pension payments, MGNREGA, which is now renamed as VBG Ramji, which carries in itself a clear connotation of one of our political agenda actually, that everyone will say this Ram Ram again and again. It's a very obvious political connotation carrying in that. PMJDY accounts, scholarships, LPG subsidies, crop insurances, direct benefit transfers, all pass through banks. Banks have therefore become part of India's democratic infrastructure. But if banks come out of this, confidence erodes. Public banking depends almost entirely upon trust. Trust cannot survive if neutrality disappears. Public money has no religion. Here, public money acquires a constitutional character. It ceases to be religious money, it becomes national money. The bank, therefore, cannot symbolically privilege one religion over another without raising legitimate constitutional questions. And public money is to unite people, not to divide them. And the main point, which is the subject of my presentation, public sector banks becoming vehicles for religious agendas, contemporary concerns. In present day, a close examination reveals that Hindutva agenda is increasingly being advanced through public institutions, including banking sector, in subtle and less visible ways. The growing intersection between Hindu nationalism and India's economic institutions raises important questions on the neutrality and secular character of public sector organizations. The influence of this agenda can extend into banking and financial institutions through a variety of mechanisms. While some may appear administrative routine, together they reflect broader patterns that need careful scrutiny nowadays. A few points are raised for discussion, just points I'm putting because there is not much time we have now. The point one is growing trend of socio-religious banking products and faith-based financial initiatives that seek to mobilize savings, investments, and charitable contributions around religious identities. In some states, discussion around Hindu bank movements and faith-based financial network have gained visibility nowadays. I have so many examples actually in my, I worked for this so much. So I have so many examples, but I think I can't give it all here. These contemporary Hindu bank movements, often promoted by Sangh Parivar groups, primarily manifest as localized, religion-centric, non-banking finance companies. These initiatives operate alongside a broader state-backed economic agenda aimed at aligning modern markets with a majoritarian cultural and political identity. The second point I'd like to raise is it's on the BJP itself. BJP, which is the ruling party, BJP clearly has systematically used cooperative banking sector to expand its political base and rural influence and influence its religious agendas. Just a reference is the 2016 demonetization days, ADCB, Ahmedabad District Cooperative Bank, where Amit Shah was the director. It garnered controversy for netting deposits of 745.59 crores in demonetized notes within 5 days of demonetization. Very clear relations of using public banking institutions. And a third one, the global corporate networks and overseas tax exempted charities functioning indirectly, advancement of Hindutva aligned initiatives through partnerships, funding mechanisms, and engagements with public sector institutions under many guises like CSR funds, cultural development activities, etc. My point is CSR funds and electoral trust funds flowing towards Hindutva affiliated charities and groups legitimately flowing, that is the point, through financial institutions, including public sector banks, which is legitimized afterwards without any questioning. So, though there are so many banking regulations, without any regulations applicable to them, these funds are legitimized. Even in public sector, banking is helping for that. And the fifth one, noteworthy point is that at the same time, these are happening at the same time, civil society organizations and charities critical of government or belonging to minority groups face intense financial scrutiny through banking regulations. The tightening of rules around foreign funding, such as FCRA amendments, so many times, it is argued to selectively target secular NGOs and some shielding groups which question the ruling power parties' ideologies. Sixth one is temple trust management. The management of wealthy Hindu temple trusts involves significant banking and financial oversights. Institutional banking frameworks enable state to utilize temple wealth for majoritarian political agendas. Just I will cite the case study of the recent Ram Janmabhoomi donation controversy. The recent controversy surrounding the Sri Ram Janmabhoomi Trust Fund loot demonstrates why banks must maintain professional distance from religious institutions. Following allegations that donations were stolen or misappropriated, investigations were launched, several arrests were made, and court sought status reports. Reports also state that the trust treasurer alleged lapses by officials of the State Bank of India, which was the banker of this Ram Janmabhoomi Trust, in monitoring the donation process, while investigations into the handling of donations continue. State Bank of India, banker to the Ram Temple in Ayodhya, has been entrusted with the responsibility of handling donations made to temple. The cash offerings at the temple are counted in the temple complex and regularly deposited at the Ayodhya branch of the bank. Mr. Anil Mishra, who is under scrutiny in the case, was in charge of temple's donation and counting process. Strikingly, one SBI higher official and his family live as tenants in Mishra's Faizabad, Aminaganj locality for last 4 years. It has also come out. While the bank was responsible for the counting of cash donations, it has been reported that SBI entered into an arrangement with the trust under which the counting process was outsourced to the trust itself. That is the noteworthy point. It was outsourced to the trust itself, and accordance with the trust request, signing an MOU. Interestingly, trust hired staff, almost everyone very closely related to Anil Mishra, for counting donations, and their salary was borne by SBI. The public sector bank is paying for the loot. Another issue that has attracted attention is the long-term deployment of an SBI official at the trust office to coordinate banking operations and receive visiting VIP bank officials. The reported involvement of SBI in this matter connected with Ram Janmabhoomi Trust has raised serious concerns about the political and ideological neutrality expected of a public sector bank. Nationalized banks are institutions created to serve all citizens equally, irrespective of religion, caste, or political belief. Any perception that a public sector bank is being used to facilitate or legitimize the agenda of a particular religious or political ideology undermines public confidence in the banking system and weakens the constitutional principles of secularism and equal treatment. Public sector banks must remain independent, transparent, and committed solely to the public interest, not become instruments for advancing any sectorial agenda. Public sector banks should act as regulated banking institutions, not as promoters or protectors of any religious agenda. This is the main points I like to raise here. There are actually in the normal routine administration carried on for this majority Hindutva agendas are carried out in many banks, like BEFI in Kerala has to keep a demonstration before Canara Bank regional bank after the authority, the AGM there prohibited beef in the canteen. So these are also subtle ways where religion is carried out or in the regular administration or operations of public banks actually. There are so many examples if you can this on that, but I'm ending my topic here. Thank you all, comrades. Greetings to all.
Okay, Comrade Sona, you have presented the subject very well, and also that you have made a promise that you will be submitting that paper you have prepared to the chair and to the center, and we are expecting that you will be submitting that, so that not only you, all the comrades who are presenting that subject, their subject, they can submit likewise. Anyhow, she has pointed out how it has been, how the religious how the banks, nationalist banks, some of the nationalist banks are promoting religious ideas, everything. It has been explained very well. Thank you very much, Comrade Sona. I'm not taking much time. I request Comrade Devika Mohana Krishnan to speak on the subject. To speak on the subject regarding
Good evening,
nationalist
comrades.
bank generates secured employment for youth. Okay, over to Comrade Devika.
Good evening, comrades. Good evening, everyone. Today, the topic on which I'm going to throw light is nationalized banks generate secure employment for the youth. In today's scenario, I really thank the organizers for providing me this an opportunity to speak on the nationalized banks that that generate secured employment for the youth in commemoration of the Bank Nationalization Day. Today, let us hail the 58th Bank Nationalization Day. Prior to the commercial banks, the RBI was nationalized on 1st January in 1949. On 1st July, the 1955, the Imperial Bank of India was taken by the Government of India and renamed as State Bank of India. In 1959, the 8 subsidiary banks were taken on by the State Bank of India. In 1963, the State Bank of Bikaner and the State Bank of Jaipur, they were merged together. On 19 July in 1969, due to the struggles of the bank unions and the left parties, then Congress government promulgated an ordinance nationalizing 14 major private banks. Some political parties and some corporates approached the Supreme Court of India against the ordinance. The Jan Sangh, the previous incarnation of the now BJP government, was the main party which opposed the nationalization of banks. The Supreme Court struck down with the ordinance. The union government that moved against this swiftly in the parliament and succeeded in nationalizing through every Indian citizen should know who stood for the nationalization and who opposed. Prior to the nationalization banks, our country witnessed of how these banks function. The number of branches were very negligible. The staff strength was inadequate. The salary structure was very low. The banks provided the loans only to very rich and to those circles of the top management people. And also the people witnessed the bank that run and as many as in 580 banks that fell bankrupt. The gullible people who had their deposits with the banks, they lost them in full. The agriculture sector, which was contributing around 40% of the GDP, was receiving loans from the banks for the tune of only 2% of the total advances. All these were reversed for the betterment of the people of India after nationalization. Subsequent to the nationalization of more banks in 1980, a supervisory regulation was put in the place by the RBI of more branches in rural, semi-urban, metro centers. The diversification of the loans to farmers, women, self-help groups, entrepreneurs, students, and big industrial houses was also led to the social sector, ensured the achievement of the green, white, and industrial revolution to a greater extent. This helped our country to gain somewhat equitable GDP growth. As regards to the private bank sectors, they are in existence as on date and function within the regulations of our RBI. But their aim is profit, and hence they tend to reduce the staff recruitment and lessen the wage structure. Only a handful of private banks that comes under the bipartite settlement, and even they are among them fall to implement them. Hence, the concept of the employment generation as well as secure the job private banks is at a stake. The public sector banks, which hold the 61% of the share of the banking sector business compared to the private sector banks. Now, there are only 12 public sector banks with a total branch network of 107,000 branches, maintaining a better fall in rural, semi-urban, and the staff strength of PSBs is, however, around 750,000, and which is a whooping numbers of about 1 lakh staff on contractual and daily wage basis. On the other hand, there are 21 domestic private sector banks with a staff strength of 8,38,000. Most of their salary structure differed adversely. But a comparative study of the PSBs and to the private sector banks, we would reveal that the PSBs are good at business per employee, where the private sector banks, they concentrate on bigger profits per employee. The social justice needed for a country in India is deprived by these private sector banks. The major welcome change was the process of recruitment. The recruitment was accelerated where the students from the marginalized section got the recruited to the bank reservation policies. The BSRB, the Banking Service Regulation Board, and on the day, the IBPS, the recruitment process in PSBs are very transparent to a greater extent, I should say. The persons employed through this process is governed by the awards and settlement at the industry level. The job security and the structure, the salary structures are well defined. Their promotions, their postings, their transfers, and other service conditions are well governed through these settlements and through banks level settlements. This brings some comfort among the employees and that bridges among the work-life balance. We, the bank employees, should bear in mind that all these are only because of the unionization of a workforce. A strong union and unity at the industry level under the UFBU is a protector for all the employees of the bank. Comrades, I repeat this again, that a strong union like BFI and the unity at the industry level under UFBU is a protector for the employee of the banks. Since 1991, when the neoliberal policies were implemented by the government of India, the public sectors were put into tremendous difficulties in one form or the other. This had gained much pace after that, followed in 2014, when the Modi-led BJP government assumed to power at the center. The recruitment of the staff on permanent basis got reduced, and much to the opposition of the unions and associations, jobs were interested on daily wages and on the contractual basis. BCs, the business correspondents, they are being engaged in many of the PSBs. And the PSBs, they are adapted themselves to the new digital age, to the private banks, and have an edge in this regard. At the bank level and at the industry level, banking industry and the unions and associations are fighting against such practices of exploitation of manpower by PSBs and other banks to employ people to a cheap labor. To overcome this hurdle, the unions in general and Bank Employees Federation of India, the BEFI, in particular, should organize these contractual and daily wage employees to bring about permanency in their jobs. Yet, with all this infirmity, the PSBs even today generate jobs and social security for the youth of our country, which are permanent in nature and better service conditions that help them to serve customers at large. Recruitments should be increased more and more. This would certainly improve the work and the bank work life. Will government banker combine head to this? That is the big question. So let us all allow the government to reverse the clock of development and the nationalization of banks that have done to our country. Once again, let us hail the Bank Nationalization Day and preserve it. Thank you, comrades. Befi Zindabad.
Thank you, Comrade Devika. You have presented well. She has presented well in correct form. It was presented. History of the bank nationalization, it was explained by her. Then employment in public sector banks and private sector banks. Then recruitment of marginalized class, that was also explained. The need of trade unions and need of the unity among the trade unions. Not only that, the exploitation is to be curtailed, then daily wages and BC's issues, everything it has been explained well. Thank you very much. And not only that, you took only 8 minutes. Before time itself, you have completed your explanation. Thank you very much, Comrade Devika. Next speaker will be speaking on the subject, nationalist banks must not encourage exploitation. Only one speaker is there, and that is Comrade Venkatesh. Comrade Venkatesh from Bank Karnataka. Please present this subject. Comrade Venkatesh, over to Comrade Venkatesh.
My name is Venkatesh from Karnataka. Today, I would like to present on the subject, nationalized banks should not encourage exploitation. So actually, my earlier speakers covered my topic also. While their presentation, they touched some of the points, how nowadays in the bank exploitation is going on. They covered. Anyway, I will also present my presentation today. Nationalized banks were established not merely to earn profits, but serve the people and contribute to the national buildings. They were found on the ideas of social justice, equality, and dignity of labor. Therefore, these institutions must never become centers for exploitation. Unfortunately, we are witnessing an increasing trend of excessive workload, staff shortage, unrealistic business targets, and pressure on employees. Alongside this, another disrupting trend is growing dependency on outsourcing engagement of daily wage workers for doing regular and permanent jobs. So nowadays we are seeing suicides in the banks increasing, and some lifestyle diseases also people are suffering. When we are meeting the doctors for any reason, they are only telling nowadays we are facing. Earlier they are telling about IT institutes. We are facing this type of patients like that. Now when we are going for any hospital, they are telling when you are coming from a bank. No, they are only telling you are sitting long sittings you are doing, you are taking so much of pressure, you are not maintaining work life balance, you are not maintaining good lifestyle, like that. Doctors only telling, means now banker job becoming a hectic because banks are not doing in a proper way. Management, they are giving unrealistic targets, and moreover staff shortages. At any cost this work to be done, like that they are pressurizing. In some banks they are telling that without completing, without achieving the target, you should not leave the branch today. In earlier Canada Bank also it is happened, without opening 5 accounts, nobody is allowed to go home, like that also situations we face in the Canada Bank, and many banks, many competitors also faced. So these things are going on. For that, we as a union represented at one area, another union protested for this reason also. So like that, and comrade, and so whenever daily wages, this and contractual employees are increasing, their wages and their working nature, everything will be different. A worker is always a worker, whether he is a permanent, temporary, outsourced, irrespective of this thing. Every worker needs dignity, fair wages, safe working conditions, social security. But no one should be denied these basic rights simply because of nature of their appointment. In many branches, outsourced and daily wage workers perform essential banking support functionings. Actually, in the branch, these daily wages are doing passbook entries, they are doing check clearance, they are staying in the branch from the opening the shutter and closing the shutter. They are working minimum 12 hours per day. Like that, we are witnessing. And the same HKP or our attenders also doing same work, but they are doing their described work. They are having prescribed timings, but these daily wages are not having those things. And managers are asking, quoting that daily wages, bank made a mistake that making you people permanent, like that. These managers also speaking nowadays, these also we are witnessing. Then as a bankers we are telling, sir, if you are telling like that, they will show private banks. Then they will tell, management also telling that private banks with less staff they are achieving targets. Then they will quote like that only, private bank managers are getting less salaries. Then they will show that. So to show as example to you tomorrow also. Now it is now we are quoting our attenders like this. Then management will quote you showing private bank managers, and ask you like this. Like this, we have to give away, we have to cross replies to our managers and people. And outsourcing never became a tool to reduce labor cost by weakening the workers' right and replacing the regular employment. It should not be used to bypass fair recruitment, dilute service conditions, or erode hard-earned rights secured to collective bargaining. At the same time, permanent employees also affected. Chronic vacancies are left unfilled. Workloads, con- work, Workloads continue to increase. A fewer regular recruitment place additional pressure on existing workforce. This is neither fair to employees nor beneficial to customers. As a trade union, we are not against technology, efficiency, progress. We support modernization and improved customer service. But progress must be accompanied by justice, efficiency. By justice, efficiency should never come at the cost of human dignity. Here, human dignity is very much important. If a daily wager or a business correspondents, any contractual employees, when they are asking their rights, immediately people scolding them, even customers also scolding them. If I give a complaint tomorrow, you will not be here. Like that also they are threatening. here human dignity and whether they can threaten a permanent employee like that. So these are the things, human dignity is very much important. So we therefore demand for the adequate recruitment to fulfill permanent vacancies, an end to misuse outsourcing for regular and permanent jobs, fair wage, decent working conditions, social security for outsourced and daily wage workers, respect for labor laws, bipartite settlements, and rights of the employees. A workplace that value people as much as performance. Comrades, the strength of labor movement lies in solidarity. Our fight is not only for permanent employees but for every worker whose labor contributes to the success of our banks. An injustice to one section of workers ultimately affects all workers. Let us reaffirm our commitment to build strong public sector banks that uphold fairness, equality, and dignity. Nationalized banks must be instruments for social justice, not centers for exploitation. Let us stand united for the decent work, secured employment, and dignity for every worker. Thank you, comrade.
Okay, Comrade Venkatesh, thank you very much. You have presented your subject in time. You have completed every points. It has been covered. That is regarding that suicide attempts, which has been there in the banking industry. Then health issues. All issues you have covered. The dignity, fair wage, social security. Then outsourcing. Every points you have covered. Thank you very much, Comrade Venkatesh. And next speaker will be Comrade Neelamani Urmila from Odisha, and she will be speaking on the subject, that is nationalized banks are subjected to loot and plunder. Comrade Neelamani Urmila from Odisha. Comrade Neelamani, can you hear me? If she is not ready, I request Comrade T. Sadish to present that subject from Telangana. I will call Neelamani afterwards. Comrade T. Sadish.
Good evening, comrades.
Okay, Comrade Sadish.
Respected President and remaining all comrades. Today, I want to cover the topic nationalized banks are subject to loot and plunder. Every year we celebrate 19th July not merely as a date in history, but as a landmark in India's struggle for economic democracy. It was on this day, 1969, almost 14 private banks are nationalized. Later, 1980, also 6 more banks are nationalized. This transformed banking for serving a privileged few to serving the nation. Today, however, we assembled to discuss a disbursing reality under the theme of national banks are subject to loot and plunder. This is not a slogan coined in anger. It is an expression of deep concern over policies that have gradually diverted public sector banks from the objectives for which they were nationalized. So now we want to know why the banks are nationalized. What the purpose to nationalize the banks on that day? Little bit already so many speakers have covered this topic. Again, just to recall some more points. To understand this situation, before 1969, the banking was largely controlled by private industrials. Hundreds of private banks failed to decades before nationalization, causing immense hardship to deposits, employees. Also, bank credit was concentrated on handful of business groups, while farmers, artisans, small industries, and rural India were completely neglected on that days. So recognize these failures in the wake of widespread demand for nationalization of the private banks by the Bank Employees Union and progressive patriotic forces, and also considering the prolonged mass movements by the left and democratic forces, Prime Minister Srimati Indira Gandhi on the time nationalized the major commercial banks. In Parliament, she explained that the savings of millions of ordinary people should not remain under the control of few private interests. Banking, the shed, should become an instrument for planned economic growth. She feels that it should be a planned economic growth. Later, she feels that banking, she said again, she became an instrument for planned economic development, reduction of inequality, support to agriculture and small industries, and balanced regional growth. She emphasized that economic power should not become concentrated in few hands. The spirit of Article 39C of the Constitution, which directs the state of prevent concentration wealth and the means of production. So, Bank Nation was therefore not merely an administrative decision, it was a social and economic commitment. She feels that by nationalizing the banks, it should be a national growth, it will be useful for national growth also. So, after that, till now, we observe that how it was achieved, how it is fruitful. We already, everyone are noticed this, everyone is witnessed. There is a lot of and remarkable achievements are there. Till 1990, when they were nationalized in 1916, there were around 8,000 branches are there. Till up to 1990, the branches are increased to up nearly 60,000. And the achievements also very fruitful. But once after 1991, what happened? We have to know that everything. Before that, millions of people opened the bank in 1990. Before up to 1990, so many people are opened the bank account. So many people are getting the benefits by nationalizing the banks. Everyone is able to access the bank benefits or bank products. After that, in 1991, we all know that the LPG was introduced. Liberalization, privatization, and globalization. It is a after then onwards, the role of the banking or the aim of the banking was completely changed. How the change was happened, now we came to know that. Later 1991 onwards, everyone feels, means banking management or government feels that it should be banks achievement should be measured in profit oriented only, not in serving the nation or not in a serving the poor people or etc. etc. They completely feels that either banking, we have to talk about banking industry, but even other industry also, everybody feels that they should be measured in a profit oriented only. In banking industry also same, it's happened. So there is a lot of changes that happened. Till that, the bank is for completely for poor or a nation. Later, 1991, the mass banking slowly gave a way to class banking. Also, the national banks are converted as a commercial banks. Till now, they are profit not a profit oriented, but after 1991, they become as a profit oriented only, commercial oriented only. Even though National Committee also recommended increasing competition, financial deregulation, and market-driven policies all are contributed to change. Public banks continue to shoulder social responsibilities, but they were increasingly evaluated through commercial criteria. So, in that area, the lending money to public is completely changed, and it is concentrated to lending the money to only few people only. Again, like before 1969, what few people, those who are financially sound, they only able to get the loans. Now, after 1991 also, the completely scenario was changed. One of the most worrying development has been the concentration of bank rate in the relatively small number of large corporate borrowers only. Before 1991, even all people are able to get the loans, but later the scenario was changed. Only corporates are easily getting the big loans. The original objective of nationalization was to spread credit widely to farmers, small enterprises, corporates, artisans, and employment generations, industries. These all are changed actually. The original objective was completely changed. Instead of that, very large loan exposure and few corporate groups are getting the loans. Whenever such accounts turn into non-performing assets, NPA accounts, the result will be badly impacted on the financial position of the banks. Now we will see how the NPA accounts or corporate defaults affecting our banks. We will take some examples to discuss this issue. We will take some examples. According to RBI data, public sector banks have technically written off approximately 18 lakh crores bad loans over the last 15 years. If you observe last 15 years, according to RBI data, almost 18 lakh crores of rupees were waived the loans of amount. However, the sheer scale of these write-offs and the relatively low recoveries in several large corporate accounts have generated widespread public concern. We will take some, if we take some examples, the Videocon group owned lenders more than 64 crore rupees. And in the way of recovery, only 5% only recovered from that Videocon group. Around 2,962 crores only recovered. While they got a loan as 64,000 crores, just 5% means almost 94% of public money completely looted. Coming to another example, even we all know recently Reliance also. Reliance, it is too much. Almost 1% recovered. 95, 45 crores of thousand, just 500 crores only recovered. Means almost 1% only recovered. Like that, we have so many examples. Even Kingfisher Airlines also. Thousands of crores. We all know that it was wiped. Even Punjab National Bank fraud also involved in a like Nirav Modi case. Mehal Koshi exceeding almost 13,000 crores of rupees were wiped. So as like we can say number of examples. Even ABG Shipyard also one of the biggest fraud in banking industry. So whatever examples we take, almost crores of money, not a thousands of money or in lakhs of money, crores of money were looted in the name of wiping or right of the bad loans. So these all money where we getting from the in banking industry, we have to know that how banks are involved, how they affected the banks. Friends, our concerns are not based on merely on trade in opinion. Even the Supreme Court also recently told the focused on the issue regarding right of the loans. The Supreme Court clearly told that Supreme Court clearly told that in the JKM infra projects in the project cases, it's clearly told that it's clearly told the public sector banks and asset consulting companies, ARCs and corporate borrowers that the court considered all allegations serious enough to issue the notices to the government of India, the Reserve Bank of India, like government of India, Reserve Bank of India, SEBI, it gives the notices to all government companies. Means we have to observe that even Supreme Court also seriously consider this issue. How banks are right off the big loans or big amounts to corporates. It is a serious issue. So that's why Supreme Court also intervened in this matter. The case itself raises disturbing questions. A debt of approximately 1,537 crores was reportedly assigned and ultimately settled for only about 73 crores. Means here also almost 5% only settled. Means 95% of money completely looted. Any example we have to take, just 1%, 5%, below 10% only the money was recovered. So where the all this public money was gone, we have to think that. Even though apart from write-offs, even in write-offs also there is no equality. If you compare for small and lenders like small people like farmers, small entrepreneurs, or else students, those who are getting loans for education purpose, these all are not able to get any write-off. Even if anyone will default, we immediately go to them and give a notice to them for recovery the amount. But coming to the corporates or big big loan amounts, completely we are failed to recover the amounts. Means it is a complete unequal treatment actually. That perception weakens public confidence in the banking system. If the system is going on like this only, definitely our people will get the lose the confidence on our banking system. Means they feel that if we invest in our banks, definitely they will lend to big people only. They will go on and they will go for IPO, insolvency. Again, the fund will not come. So they feel like that only. So the burden or the issue, how it will be impacted, we have to know that deposits and employees how affected by these things we have to discuss. The government recapitalize public sector banks using public funds. Deposits receive lower returns on their savings than they did decades ago. Senior citizens, pensioners, and small savers are particularly affected. Apart from that, at the same time, employees who are continuously working under severe manpower shortage, vacancies remain unfulfilled. Even outsourcing and contractual employees are also in a present situation, they are increased. There is no proper permanent employment. Completely, the work will be done by outsourcing and contractual employees only. In that way, the pressure will be but, survived. Ultimately, the exploration of labor and even we are getting more charges from the customers also, deposits also. In the all these things are happened due to the write of the bad loans. Now, our employees were very hardly working for getting the profits. But where the profits are going on, we have to know all these write-offs and how effectively we are working for banking. We have, if you recall our working conditions, we are do a lot of works in during demonetization, COVID-19, and implementing Jan Dhan Yojana, DBT, direct profit benefits, etc., etc. We are doing our 100 level best and 100% working is going to, there, but still we are struggling to get the profits. Apart from this, even mergers and consolidations also getting lot of impact on the on banking industry. During last decade, last 10 years onwards, the number of the public sector banks are completely decreased due to the merging. Actually, some people feel that the consolidation improves the efficiency and capital strength, but efficiency should not come at the cost of accessibility, employment, or regional responsiveness. The objective of banking is not merely to create bigger institutions, but to create better institutions that serve the people. Becoming a big is not a big matter, but we have to serve lot of people is a big issue. So what should we do? What the decision we take in this scenario? We have to check once. As a WEFI member, I feel that WEFI firmly believes that India needs stronger public sector banks, not weaker ones. We demand large-scale recruitment to fill all vacancies, strengthening of regional rural banks, create greater credit flow to agriculture, MSME, cooperative, employment generating sectors, etc., etc. Transparent appraisal of large corporations. We should maintain a transparent system. Strong action against willful defaulters and economic offenders. Also, better governance of accountability in sanctioning and monitoring large advances. Protection of the public ownership and social character of banking. Also, public money must serve the public welfare only. Whatever money is there in our banking industry, it is all public money. So it should be served to public only, not to big corporates. So friends, coming to conclusion, bank nationalism was one of independent India's greatest economic reforms because it is transformed banking into a instrument of national development. As we feel that it is definitely a national development instrument only. So the challenge before us today is to merely to preserve public sector banks in name. It is to preserve their purpose. We should maintain the purpose of what in 1969 people feels that why they nationalized the banks. We have to maintain the purpose. The savings deposited of crores of ordinary Indians are scared public trust. They must be used to promote employment, agriculture, small industries, rural development, and inclusive growth, not to facilitate the concentration of wealth. So here banks should be concentrated on lending the poor people, not to be concentrated becoming a wealth or improving the wealth condition. On this Bank Nationalization Day, let us renew our commitment to defend public sector banks, strengthen social banking, protect the interest of depositors, ensure accountability in large corporate lending, and restore the original vision that inspired bank nationalization in 1969. As bank employees, we are not merely protecting our institutions, we are protecting an idea, the idea that banking must remain an instrument of economic democracy, social justice, and national development. Long live national banking system, long live public sector banks, long live the unit of bank employees and the working people. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Okay, Comrade Satish, thank you very much. You have presented regarding after that LPG era, that is after 1991, how the public sector banks have been is being looted or plundered by the big corporates. The points you have presented well. Thank you very much. Now I think a presentation that is on 5 subjects, one round presentation is over. So we can go for second round of presentation. Some comrades' name I have already called the names, but unfortunately they couldn't unmute their system. I think now all the comrades whose name I have already called, the host must have unmuted them, made them co-host. I request Comrade Nitish Kumar Mishra from Jharkhand to present on Nationalist Bank generate secured employment for the youth. Comrade Nitish Kumar, now you can present that subject. You might have heard one comrade have already presented the subject, that is Comrade Devika. Now Comrade Nitish Kumar Mishra will be speaking on that subject. Comrade Nitish, over to Comrade Nitish.
आदरणीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, सम्मानित मुख्य अतिथि महोदय तथा देश के विभिन्न राज्यों से जुड़े सभी सम्मानित वक्तागण, सभी को मेरा लाल सलाम। साथियों, आज मुझे झारखंड की ओर से आप सभी के समक्ष राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक युवाओं के लिए सुरक्षित रोजगार का सृजन करते हैं जैसे अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण अवसर प्राप्त हुआ है। इसके लिए मैं आयोजकों के प्रति अपनी हार्दिक कृतज्ञता व्यक्त करता हूं। साथियों, किसी भी राष्ट्र की सबसे बड़ी पूंजी उसके प्राकृतिक जो संसाधन नहीं होते, उसकी सबसे बड़ी शक्ति युवा शक्ति होती है। और किसी भी युवा की सबसे बड़ी आवश्यकता केवल नौकरी नहीं, बल्कि सुरक्षित, सम्मानजनक और अस्थायी रोजगार होता है। जब किसी युवा के हाथ में रोजगार होता है तो उसके चेहरे पर केवल मुस्कान नहीं आती, उसके परिवार में विश्वास आता है, उसके माता पिता के आंखों में संतोष दिखाई देता है और उसके भविष्य में आत्मविश्वास का प्रकाश दिखाई देता है। यही कारण है कि जब हम सुरक्षित रोजगार की बात करते हैं तो राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंकों का नाम स्वाभाविक रूप से हमारे सामने आता है, क्योंकि राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक केवल वित्तीय संस्थाएं नहीं हैं, वे देश की आर्थिक व्यवस्था के मजबूत स्तंभ हैं। वे करोड़ों नागरिकों के विश्वास के केंद्र हैं और लाखों युवाओं के अपने हैं। साथियों, भारत जैसे विशाल और विविधतापूर्ण देश में बैंकिंग व्यवस्था का महत्व केवल लेन देन तक सीमित नहीं है। बैंक देश की बचत को विकास में बदलते हैं, छोटे सपनों को बड़े अवसरों में बदलते हैं और मेहनत को आत्मनिर्भरता में बदलने का कार्य करते हैं। इसलिए राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंकों की भूमिका केवल आर्थिक नहीं, बल्कि सामाजिक और राष्ट्रीय भी है। आज का युवा ऐसा कैरियर चाहता है जहां पारदर्शिता हो, योग्यता का सम्मान हो, सीखने और आगे बढ़ने का अवसर हो और सबसे महत्वपूर्ण जहां भविष्य सुरक्षित हो। राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक इन सभी अपेक्षाओं पर खरे उतरने का निरंतर प्रयास करती है। साथियों, राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंकों की सबसे बड़ी विशेषता यह है कि यहाँ अवसर किसी व्यक्ति के पहचान से नहीं, उसकी प्रतिभा, परिश्रम और योग्यता से निर्धारित होता है। यही कारण है कि देश का सामान्य परिवार भी अपने बच्चों को बैंकिंग सेवा में जाने का सपना देखने के लिए प्रेरित करता है, क्योंकि उसे विश्वास होता है कि यह केवल एक नौकरी नहीं, बल्कि सम्मान, स्थिरता और सुरक्षित भविष्य का मार्ग है। इसी विश्वास के साथ मैं आपके समक्ष कुछ महत्वपूर्ण बिंदुओं के माध्यम से यह प्रस्तुत करना चाहूंगा कि राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक किस प्रकार युवाओं के लिए सुरक्षित रोजगार का सृजन करते हैं और राष्ट्र निर्माण में अपनी महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाते हैं। साथियों, सबसे पहले हमें यह समझना होगा कि सुरक्षित रोजगार का वास्तविक अर्थ क्या है। सुरक्षित रोजगार का अर्थ केवल नियमित वेतन प्राप्त करना नहीं है, बल्कि ऐसा कार्य क्षेत्र जहां योग्यता का सम्मान हो, कार्य करने का अवसर हो, सीखने और आगे बढ़ने की संभावनाएं हो। सामाजिक सुरक्षा इन सभी आधारों पर युवाओं को एक सुदृढ़ और सम्मानजनक करियर प्रदान करते हैं। यही कारण है कि देश के लाखों युवा बैंकिंग सेवा में अपना भविष्य बनाने का सपना देखते हैं। राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंकों की सबसे बड़ी विशेषता उनकी पारदर्शी और निष्पक्ष भर्ती प्रणाली है। यहाँ चयन किसी व्यक्ति की पहचान या प्रभाव के आधार पर नहीं, बल्कि उसकी योग्यता, परिश्रम और प्रतिस्पर्धा के प्रदर्शन के आधार पर होता है। यही व्यवस्था समाज के प्रत्येक वर्ग के प्रतिभाशाली युवाओं को समान अवसर प्रदान करती है और यही एक सशक्त लोकतंत्र की वास्तविक पहचान भी है। साथियों, भर्ती के बाद भी राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक अपने कर्मचारियों को निरंतर प्रशिक्षण देती है। समय के साथ बदलती तकनीक, डिजिटल बैंकिंग, साइबर सुरक्षा, ग्राहक सेवा और वित्तीय प्रबंधन जैसे अनेक क्षेत्रों में उन्हें निरंतर दक्ष बनाया जाता है। इस प्रकार बैंक केवल रोजगार ही नहीं देते, बल्कि युवाओं के व्यक्तित्व, ज्ञान और नेतृत्व क्षमता का भी विकास करते हैं। साथियों, किसी भी संस्था की सबसे बड़ी शक्ति उसके भवन नहीं होते, उसके कर्मचारी होते हैं। और किसी भी कर्मचारी की सबसे बड़ी शक्ति उसका आत्मविश्वास होता है। जब किसी कर्मचारी को यह विश्वास होता है कि उसकी मेहनत का सम्मान होगा, उससे आगे बढ़ने के अवसर मिलेंगे और उसका भविष्य सुरक्षित है, तभी वह पूरी निष्ठा और ईमानदारी से अपने दायित्वों का निर्वहन करता है। राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक अपने कर्मचारियों में यही विश्वास विकसित करता है। इसलिए बैंकिंग सेवा केवल एक पेशा नहीं है, यह विश्वास है, उत्तरदायित्व है और जन सेवा का माध्यम भी है। साथियों, राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंकों की एक और महत्वपूर्ण विशेषता यह है कि उनकी सेवाएं केवल महानगरों तक सीमित नहीं है। देश के दूरस्थ गांवों, आदिवासी क्षेत्रों, पर्वतीय इलाकों और छोटे कस्बों तक उनकी शाखाएं कार्य कर रही हैं। इससे स्थानीय युवाओं को रोजगार के अवसर मिलते हैं, ग्रामीण अर्थव्यवस्था को गति मिलती है और विकास का लाभ समाज के अंतिम व्यक्ति तक पहुंचता है। यही कारण है कि राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक केवल रोजगार उपलब्ध नहीं कराते, ये अवसरों का सम्मान वितरण भी सुनिश्चित करते हैं। और मेरा मानना है कि जिस देश में अवसर समान होंगे, उसी देश का भविष्य सबसे अधिक सुरक्षित होगा। साथियों, इसलिए मैं पूरे विश्वास के साथ यह कह सकता हूं कि राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक केवल युवाओं को नौकरी नहीं देती, वे उन्हें आत्मविश्वास देते हैं। वे केवल आज का सहारा नहीं देते, वे आने वाली कल की सुरक्षा का विश्वास भी देते हैं। साथियों, यदि हम राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंकों की भूमिका को केवल रोजगार देने वाली संस्था मान ले, तो यह उनके योगदान का एक बहुत छोटा आकलन होगा। वास्तव में राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक केवल रोजगार नहीं देते, वे राष्ट्र निर्माण तभी मजबूत होती है जब किसान सशक्त हो, छोटा व्यापारी आत्मनिर्भर हो, युवा उद्यमी आगे बढ़े, महिलाएं आर्थिक रूप से सक्षम बने और समाज का अंतिम बैंकों में दशकों से इसी उद्देश्य को पूरा करने का कार्य के लिए ऋण प्राप्त करता है। कोई छात्र अपनी उच्च शिक्षा के लिए शिक्षा ऋण लेता है, कोई युवा अपना छोटा उद्योग या व्यवसाय प्रारंभ करने के लिए, कोई महिला स्वयं सहायता समूह के माध्यम से आत्मनिर्भर बनने के दिशा में कदम बढ़ाती है, तो उसके पीछे राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंकों की महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका होती है। इस प्रकार राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक केवल प्रत्यक्ष रोजगार ही नहीं देते, वे लाखों लोगों को अप्रत्यक्ष रूप से भी रोजगार और स्वरोजगार के अवसर उत्पन्न करते हैं। साथियों, वित्तीय समावेशन की दिशा में भी राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंकों का योगदान अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण रहा है। देश के दूर दराज गांवों तक बैंकिंग सेवाएं पहुंचाना, गरीब और वंचित वर्गों को औपचारिक बैंकिंग व्यवस्था से जोड़ना, सरकारी योजनाओं का लाभ अंतिम व्यक्ति तक पहुंचाना, ये सभी कार्य राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक ने पूरी निष्ठा के साथ किए हैं। यही कारण है कि राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक केवल अर्थव्यवस्था को ही नहीं, समाज में समान अवसर और सामाजिक न्याय को भी मजबूत करते हैं। साथियों, हम सभी ने कोविड-19 महामारी का कठिन दौर देखा है, जब जीवन की रफ्तार लगभग थम सी गई थी, जब अनेक संस्थान बंद थे, तब भी सारे बैंक, खास करके राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंकों के कर्मचारी अपने कर्तव्यों का निर्वहन करते रहे। उन्होंने केवल बैंकिंग सेवाएं ही नहीं दी, उन्होंने लोगों के विश्वास को भी बनाए रखा। पेंशन समय पर पहुंची, सरकारी सहायता राशि लाभार्थियों तक पहुंची, आवश्यक बैंकिंग सेवाएं निरंतर जारी रही और देश भी आर्थिक गतिविधियों को पूरी तरह रुकने नहीं दिया। उस कठिन समय ने हमें सिखाया है कि राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक केवल वित्तीय संस्थान नहीं है, वे देश की आर्थिक जीवन रेखा है। साथियों, आज भारत का एक विकसित राष्ट्र बनने की दिशा में निरंतर आगे बढ़ रहा है। ऐसे समय में युवाओं को सुरक्षित और सम्मानजनक रोजगार उपलब्ध कराना केवल आर्थिक आवश्यकता नहीं, बल्कि राष्ट्रीय दायित्व भी है। और इस दायित्व को निभाने में राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभा रहे हैं, क्योंकि जब एक युवा रोजगार प्राप्त करता है, तो केवल उसकी आय नहीं बढ़ती, उसका आत्मविश्वास बढ़ता है, उसके परिवार का जीवन स्तर सुधरता है और समाज में सकारात्मक परिवर्तन का मार्ग प्रशस्त होता है। साथियों, राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक केवल खाते नहीं खोलते, वे अवसरों के द्वार खोलते हैं। वे केवल ऋण को नहीं देते, वे सपनों को साकार करने का विश्वास देते हैं। ये केवल कर्मचारियों की नियुक्ति नहीं करते, वे भारत के उज्जवल भविष्य की मजबूत नींव तैयार करते हैं। साथियों, इतना सब कहने के बाद यह भी स्वीकार करना होगा कि आज राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंकों के सामने अनेक नई चुनौतियां भी हैं। डिजिटल बैंकिंग का तीव्र विस्तार, नई तकनीकों का बढ़ता उपयोग, साइबर सुरक्षा की चुनौतियां, ग्राहकों की बदलती अपेक्षाएं और बढ़ता कारोबार, ये सभी ऐसे विषय हैं जिस पर निरंतर ध्यान देने की आवश्यकता है। लेकिन चुनौतियां कभी भी प्रगति का मार्ग नहीं रोकती, ये केवल हमें और अधिक सक्षम, सजग और मजबूत बनने की प्रेरणा देती हैं। इसलिए आवश्यक है कि राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंकों को समय के अनुरूप और अधिक सशक्त बनाया जाए। पर्याप्त संख्या में नई भर्तियां हो, युवाओं को आधुनिक बैंकिंग तथा गुणवत्तापूर्ण प्रशिक्षण मिले, कर्मचारियों को बेहतर कार्य का वातावरण मिले और ऐसी नीतियां बनाई जाए जो बैंकों को भी मजबूत करे और युवाओं के भविष्य को भी सुरक्षित करें। साथियों, जब हम विकसित भारत किसी राष्ट्र का विकास केवल आर्थिक आंकड़ों से नहीं मापा जाता, वास्तविक विकास तब होता है जब देश का युवा आत्मविश्वास के साथ कह सके मेरा भविष्य सुरक्षित है, और यह विश्वास मजबूत राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक ही प्रदान करते हैं। साथियों, भारत के पूर्व राष्ट्रपति तथा महान वैज्ञानिक डॉक्टर एपीजे अब्दुल कलाम ने कहा था, सपने वे नहीं होते जो हम सोते समय देखते हैं, बल्कि सपने वे होते हैं जो हमें सोने नहीं देते। आज देश का प्रत्येक युवा अपने जीवन में आगे बढ़ने का सपना देखता है। राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक उन सपनों को केवल दिशा ही नहीं देते, बल्कि उन्हें साकार करने का अवसर भी प्रदान करते हैं। अंत में मैं पूरे विश्वास और विनम्रता के साथ केवल इतना कहना चाहूंगा कि राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक केवल बैंक नहीं है, वे विश्वास के प्रतीक हैं। वे केवल रोजगार नहीं देते, वे आत्मसम्मान और आत्मविश्वास का निर्माण करते हैं। वे केवल वेतन नहीं देते, वे परिवारों को सुरक्षा का भरोसा देते हैं। और वे केवल कर्मचारियों का निर्माण नहीं करते, वे राष्ट्र निर्माण के सच्चे सहभागी तैयार करते हैं। आइए हम सब मिलकर ऐसी व्यवस्था का निर्माण का संकल्प ले जो प्रत्येक योग्य युवा को समान अवसर दे, प्रत्येक कर्मचारी को सम्मान दे, एक विकसित, आत्मनिर्भर तथा समृद्ध राष्ट्र बनाने में अपनी महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाती रहे। साथियों, मैं अपनी इन पंक्तियों के साथ समाप्त करना चाहता हूं अपनी बातों को कि मजबूत राष्ट्रीयकृत बैंक सुरक्षित रोजगार की पहचान है। सुरक्षित रोजगार से मजबूत परिवार बनते हैं, मजबूत परिवारों से सशक्त समाज बनता है और सशक्त समाज से विकसित भारत का निर्माण होता है। आइए हम सब मिलकर ऐसे भारत के निर्माण में अपना योगदान दें जहां पर योग्य युवा को अवसर मिले और हर मेहनती हाथ को सम्मान मिले, हर सपने को उड़ान मिले। इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ मैं अपने वाणी को विराम देता हूं। आप सभी ने धैर्यपूर्वक मेरे विचारों को सुना, इसके लिए मैं आप सभी का हृदय से धन्यवाद एवं आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। सभी को लाल सलाम।
कॉमरेड नीतीश कुमार, धन्यवाद। आपका प्रेजेंटेशन बहुत अच्छा है। Anyhow, you might have heard how he has presented regarding that how Nationalist Bank generates secure employment for the youth. In short, he has mentioned that banking services is not just a profession; it is a trust, a responsibility, and also a medium of public service. Well presented, Comrade Nitish. And he has also quoted our former President APJ Abdul Kalam for presenting his views. I once again congratulate Comrade Nitish Kumar. Next speaker will be Comrade Neelamani Urmila Turkey from Odisha. She will be speaking on the subject, nationalist banks are subjected to loot and plunder. Over to Comrade Neelamani Urmila.
Good evening, comrades. Respected President BFI, Comrade SS Anil, presiding over the webinar, distinguished speakers, and comrades from all over India. My revolutionary greetings to all of you on this 58th Bank Nationalization Day. My topic, nationalized banks are subject to loot and plunder, is not merely a slogan. It reflects a disturbing reality that concerns every citizen who believes in public ownership and social justice. To understand this topic, I'll have to explain what was the need for nationalization of the banks, because this topic completely betrays the objective of the nationalization of banks. So after the independence, the government felt the necessity of developing an effective and adequate banking system so that its socio-economic goals could be effectively implemented. The seminal event came about on July 19th, 1969 in the form of nationalization of 14 major commercial banks with deposits exceeding 50 crores each. In April 1980, another 6 banks were nationalized, bringing the total to 20. There were several reasons why the nationalization of banks was necessary. So first was aggregating the financial resources which was being used for national priorities, mainly because our country was an agriculture country, and to finance the smaller scale industries. Then there were several banks, private banks, which were failing in India in the 1950s and 60s, which was leading to loss in the public confidence. So prevention of bank failures was another important thing. Private banks were mainly servicing the industrialists and ignoring other important sectors like agriculture and small industries. So distribution of credit equitably was very important. Then there was monopoly in the banking business. There were monopolies in a few business houses. So this had to be eliminated. And nationalization was very important to achieve the 5-year plans the government was initiating for the planned economic growth of our country. The nationalization of banks was a turning point. Before nationalization of banks, the banks were controlled and owned by private individuals, and they usually used to serve urban areas and big companies. The government under Prime Minister Indira Gandhi nationalized 14 banks to align banking with the goals of social and economic development. Their aim was to reduce poverty, promoting equality, and supporting national planning. The nationalization impact was far-reaching. There were massive expansion of banking network in the country. In rural and semi-urban areas, thousands of banks were opened, increasing access to financial services. The public confidence had increased in the banking sector, and there was a sharp rise in saving and deposits. The credit flow to the private sectors, such as small-scale industries, agriculture, grew significantly after nationalization. So nationalization served as financial inclusion, as the bank served as a tool to provide public welfare rather than profit. Socially, it helped to reduce the regional and social inequalities by extending credit and helping the weaker sections of the society. In the long run, nationalization created a strong foundation and boosted public interest in the banks. But today, we see that this great legacy is under attack. Nationalization of banks are not merely, nationalized banks are not merely financial institutions. They are custodians of the public hard-earned money. Every rupee deposited by ordinary citizens carries their trust and hope for a secure future. Therefore, when these institutions suffer from financial irregularities, the consequences extend far beyond balance sheets. They affect the entire nation. The phrase loot and plunder is a strong one. It highlights concerns that public sector banks have at times been vulnerable to large-scale financial misconduct, governance failures, and misuse of public resources. One major challenge has been the accumulation of large non-performing assets or bad loans. In some cases, substantial loans have been extended to large borrowers who later defaulted. When these loans remain unpaid, the losses ultimately weaken the financial position of banks and reduce the resources available for productive lending. A willful defaulter who refuses to repay the loan amount despite having financial capacity to do so. While a defaulter, in contrast, is one who is able to pay because of unable to pay because of financial difficulties. So minus the jargon, we can say that a willful defaulter is nothing but a fraudster or a cheat. According to CIBIL data, Indian banks are reporting over 16,044 willful defaulters. As of December 2022, the cumulative debt that these defaulters owe amounts to an astounding sum of 3.46 lakh crores. And public sector banks have a lion's share of 85%, which amounts to 2.92 lakh crores. With this amount, State Bank of India claiming an outstanding amount of 79,227 crores to be recovered from these willful defaulters. It is reported that willful defaulters in India grew tenfold from 2012 to 2022, and this amount is about 2.4 lakh crores. So imagine, comrades, the huge amount of losses that the banks are bearing. As many as 369 big defaulters with an outstanding of rupees 100 crores and more owe more than $1.39 lakh crores to scheduled commercial banks and all India financial institutions. I'll give you a few examples. Like Gitanjali Gems Limited, which is owned by the fugitive businessman Mehul Choksi. He remains the top willful defaulter with an outstanding of rupees 8,065 crore as of 31st March 2023. This was revealed from a reply by in an RTI. Then I'll also give a few examples to make clear what the losses the banks are facing. In the top list, I told Mr. Choksi's scam hit company Gitanjali Gems, which owed 8,065 crores. Then his other group companies like Geely India Limited, Nakshatra Brands Limited, which had taken loan of rupees 1,447 crore and rupees 1,280 crores respectively. Then second we have in the list is Era Infra Engineering Limited, which was 5,750 crores to Indian lenders, and ABG Shipyards Limited with an outstanding of 4,774 crores. Then third, we have REI Agro Limited, followed by Concast Steel Power Limited and Kanpur-based Rotomac Global Private Limited. These are all famed companies. The Rotomac Global company is owned by Kothari Group, which was 2,894 crores. So they are all big companies. They are not small companies. And they are all willful defaulters. It is followed by the diamond head Jatin Mehta's Winsome Diamonds and Jewelry, owing rupees 2,706 crores. This is probe by CBI for various bank frauds. And all their family members, they have vanished from India, have never returned, and they are left behind a loan default documented to be rupees 6,800 crores. So most of the willful defaulters, they have left the country with so many losses, which is hardly to be recovered. Banks claim they have filed cases against these willful defaulters to recover their dues. However, the overall experience over the years is that banks are taking sizable haircuts while recovering dues from willful defaulters. While lending a few lakh rupees to common borrowers, students, farmers, banks ask to mortgage assets. When a common borrower takes loan from one bank, the others refuse to lend him more money. But in case of crony capitalists, the board of directors of banks sanctions clear loans of hundreds of crores and above. In that case, how will it help to file only court cases for recovery? Who and when are we going to fix the responsibility of the bank board? Will there be any inquiry by ED or CBI in these cases, or are they simply going to go through like that? The RBI issued a circular in June 8, 2023 titled Framework for Compromise Settlements and Technical Write-Offs. It allows banks to enter compromise settlements with a borrower who has been classified as a willful defaulter. Compromise settlement refers to a negotiated settlement wherein a borrower offers to pay an amount less than the total amount due to him or her under the loan agreement. The bank agrees to accept this drastically reduced amount as full and final settlement of its dues. This involves a certain sacrifice by way of write-off or waiver of a portion of its dues on a one-time basis, and the banks call it as haircut. Public sector banks are grappling with loans worth rupees 1.76 lakh crores owed by more than 2,100 willful defaulters as of 30th June 2025, while during the past 5 years, PSBs have written off over rupees 10 lakh crores in loans across categories. This government data was presented in the Lok Sabha in a reply. Another issue that sparked concern after the RBI circular was the permission for banks to reissue loans to willful defaulters after a mandatory cooling period. Veteran journalist Sucheta Dalal explains the significance of this decision, saying, "Remember, bank bailouts are largely for PSBs whose boards are packed with political appointees with little knowledge about banking. They will now decide on compromise and settlement with politically connected accountants and lawyers who are appointed as independent directors to bank boards." It is very clear, comrades, there are lateral entries into the board of directors, and such things are going on. The PSBs continue to pursue recovery of written-off assets through multiple legal channels, including civil courts, debt recovery tribunals, SAFEZI Act, and proceedings under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Still, recovery rates for written-off loans remain low, and that write-offs often dilute public pressure to act decisively against chronic defaulters. The ongoing reliance on write-offs as cleanup tool for PSBs also raises concern about moral hazard, where habitual defaulters might assume eventual impunity, while write-offs help improve banks' financial statements and meet regulatory norms. They also reduce the pressure on defaulting borrowers, particularly in cases involving well-connected entities. I will give you an example of Alok Industries Limited. It is a well-known case of insolvency and bankruptcy case. In this, the consortium of Reliance India Limited and the JM Financial Asset Reconstruction Company, they succeeded the bid for Alok Industries to acquire this company, which was exposed to loan of rupees 29,500 crores. Now here, the Reliance Industries and JMF are placing a loan bid for less than 5,000 crores. Initially, it was rejected as it was noticed by the Committee of Creditors as too low a bid. And so they chose to liquidate the company and recover the dues. But then the COC called the consortium and they asked to improve the bid. Smartly, the bid was improved, but by just 100 crores. And the final bid was placed at rupees 5,050 crores, just a tad above rupees 5,000 crores. So given that these banks have collectively chosen to take 84% haircut, it reflects their collective inefficiency, and the liquidation value of Alok Industries was 4,200 crores. So in past, the banks have taken possession of the properties of small industries and have liquidated them, but not in this case. So the transaction that left a good 24,000 crore hole through the bank, which is nothing but public money. Critics also argue that public sector banks can face pressures from unrelated to sound commercial decision making. Any lending decision influenced by factors other than commercial, careful financial assessment increases the risk of losses and undermines the principle of accountability. So when the government is questioned about their accountability, back comes their reply that privatization is the only solution. We are still facing the consequences of the recent merger of the public sector banks, and the government is ready to make another announcement for the merger of more merger of banks. So the merger of public sector banks, continuous branch rationalization, inadequate recruitment, outsourcing of permanent work, and relentless business targets have increased pressure on employees, while business continues to grow by volumes, but bankers are understaffed to keep pace with it. Technology has transformed banking. Digital banking has expanded customer convenience, but it has also increased cyber risk, digital fraud, and operational pressure. We have recently come across many cases of digital fraud where the customers are defrauded of huge amounts of money through the digital channels. So technology should strengthen public banking, not replace employees or reduce customer service. Comrades, nationalized banks have played a vital role in India's economic development. They have brought banking services to rural areas, supported farmers, financed small businesses, implemented government welfare schemes, and promoted financial inclusion. Millions of citizens rely on these institutions every day, and vast majority of their employees serve with honesty and dedication. Therefore, solution is not to lose faith in the nationalized banks, but to strengthen them. Greater transparency, stricter accountability, strong governance, better risk management, faster recovery of defaulted loans, prompt action against fraud is essential. Technology independent oversight and responsible lending practices can further safeguard public money. In conclusion, the issue before us is not whether nationalized banks are valuable. They are undoubtedly very, very valuable. The real question is whether they are adequately protected from misuse. A strong banking system depends on integrity, transparency, and accountability. Protecting national banks from fraud, mismanagement, and financial abuse is not merely a banking objective, it is a national responsibility. Bank employees have never opposed reforms that genuinely strengthen the banking system. We oppose reforms that weaken public ownership, reduce accountability, or transfer public wealth into private hands. Our demands are clear, comrades. We have to strengthen public sector banks instead of privatizing them, recover every possible rupee from willful defaulters and economic offenders, ensure transparency, accountability in sanctioning large corporate loans, fill all vacant posts through regular recruitment, stop outsourcing of permanent banking work, protect labor rights, and ensure decent working conditions, strengthen customer service by investing in staff, infrastructure, and technology, preserve the social character of banking. Friends, the struggle to defend nationalized banks is not only the struggle of bank employees, it is the struggle of farmers seeking affordable credit, students seeking educational loans, small entrepreneurs building businesses, pensioners depending on secure banking services, and every depositor who trusts public institutions. If public sector banks are weakened, the consequences will be felt across the entire economy. Public banking is a pillar of India's economic sovereignty and social development. PFI, therefore, has a historic responsibility. We must expose policies that favor corporate interests at the cost of public institutions. We must build unity among employees, customers, farmers, workers, and the public to defend nationalized banks. Let us remember that every branch of a public sector bank, RRB, cooperative banks, and private banks represents the trust of millions of Indians. Every employee contributes to nation building. Every successful struggle to defend public banking strengthens democracy itself. So let us pledge to continue our united movement against privatizations, against corporate loot of public money, and against policies that undermine nationalized banks. Together we shall defend public banking. Together we shall defend workers' rights. Together we shall defend the economic interests of our nation. Long live BFI, long live workers' unity. BFI Zindabad. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Comrade Urmila. You have well explained how crony capitalists are looting our Indian banks, and for that you have cited the examples of Gitanjali Jewels and Alok Industries. Thank you very much. Next speaker will be Comrade Pranchal Sakia from NER. She will be subject will be Nationalist Bank Guarantee Economic Sovereignty. Comrade Pranchal Sakia. Comrade Venugopal has already presented the views regarding him. Now, Comrade Pranchal Sakia from NER will be presenting her views. Over to Comrade Sakia.
Good evening, comrades. Am I audible?
Yes, comrade.
Thank you, comrades, for giving me this opportunity. First of all, happy Bank Nationalization Day to all you comrades. Respected Presidium and my dear comrades, from every part of my country participating in this national webinar. I'm Pranjal Sekia, President UBU NER. It is an honor to address you today on this very auspicious day of 58th Bank Nationalization Day. Comrades, we are meeting at a very critical juncture in our nation's economic history. Today, the discourse is dominated by efficiency and privatization. But as bankers, we must look beneath the surface of balance sheets. I would like to speak on the subject, nationalized banks guarantee economic sovereignty, which is the very bedrock of our nation's future. I would like to address the topic in some specific points. They are like number one, defining sovereignty in a globalized era. A nation is not truly sovereign if it cannot direct the flow of its own capital. Political freedom without financial control is an incomplete project. Economic sovereignty means that the country must retain the power to decide who gets credit, which sectors grow, and whose future is financed. In India, this power has been protected for over 5 decades, not by private banking empires, but by our own nationalized banks. If we go to the history, we can have the nationalization chaos before nationalization of our banks. We can, you all have viewed it, okay? So to understand why we must protect these institutions, we must remember the landscape before 1969. Between 1947 and 1955, 361 private banks failed in India, nearly 40 banks every year. It is shocking result. Ordinary citizens lost their life savings with no hope of recovery. Private banks then were the puppets of big business houses, ignoring the rural sector entirely. The nationalization of 14 major banks in 1969 was not just a policy shift, it was a democratic declaration that banking must serve the many, not the few. It was designed to control the commanding heights of the economy in line with national objectives. As Prime Minister Indira Gandhi famously stated, the banking system must be inspired by a larger social purpose. Now I'm coming to the third point, is the national banks are the architecture of all-round development. Comrades, we have seen it for last 5 decades. Okay, nationalized banks are the leaders of development in a modern economy. They transform banking from an elite urban activity into a public mission. We'll understand this by the following points. The number one, the rural revolution. Before 1969, agriculture received only 2% of total credit. Eh, we must note this, okay? Before 1969, agriculture received only 2% of total credit. After nationalization, the concept of priority sector lending ensured that 40% of bank loans go to the agriculture and small industries. Without this, the green revolution would have remained a dream and India would not be food self-reliant today. Number two is financial inclusion as strategy. Schemes like the Jan Dhan Yojana and lots of other schemes which brought 50 crore customers into the formal system were only possible because public banks had the mandate to go where private banks feared to tread. Public banks are the financial entities reaching the remote villages and the small entrepreneurs. Number three is economic resilience. In times of global crisis, such as the 2008 recession, India's economy stood firm like the Himalayas because the nationalized character of our banks. During the COVID-19 pandemic, while private leaders grew cautious, public banks extended moratoriums and relief packages based on national need rather than immediate return. I'm coming to the fourth point, the myth of private superiority. The current push to convert public sector undertakings to the private sector is often justified by the search for efficiency. However, the data tells a more complex story. While private banks often report lower non-performing assets, they are not immune to failure, as seen in the recent crisis of Yes Bank and Lakshmi Vilas Bank. Furthermore, the social cost of privatization is immense. In Latin America, if we go to the global level, in Latin America and Russia, abrupt privatization in the 1990s triggered financial collapse and the exclusion of the rural poor. If India follows the same path, studies suggest we could face a 1 to 2% loss in GDP as rural credit shrinks and MSME growth slows. Specifically, the plan to privatize banks like the Bank of Maharashtra, Indian Overseas Bank, Central Bank of India, and recently IDBI Bank risk surrendering public assets to crony capitalism. When you privatize, you threat national need to return on investment. That is pathetic. Comrades, Google Xbox has already cut 32,000 jobs due the AI. Okay, AI has already taken over their jobs. Now the whole scenario has been changed. The whole world has been changed. AI has taken over the IT and tech industries. If our banks have been converted to private banks, 60% of our employees will be remote or have to upgrade their skill, which is nearly impossible. We have to stop privatization, or our next generation will laugh at us. The finance minister has called our banks to play a central role in the Amrit Kal, which is being narrated by the present government. The 25 years journey for becoming a developed nation by 2047. To achieve this, we do not need to sell our banks. We need to reform them. The true reform involves, in my view, first is professionalism, moving toward honest, business-oriented boards that makes commercial decisions without political interference. Second, my view is addressing manpower crisis. Most of the banks are having shortage of manpower. The massive reduction of banks from 27 to 12 through mergers has led to branch closures and job insecurity. We must address recruitment shortages to improve service quality. The third is technological leap. Banks must become digital institutions, training staff in emerging technologies such as AI and all those things to catch frauds and track wrong money while staying accessible to the youth. The fourth is operational autonomy, giving banks the freedom to act as catalyst for growth while maintaining their public character. And coming to the conclusion, I call our union to action. True economic sovereignty is the power to direct national capital toward our own development priorities, ensuring that the financial arteries of our nation serve the public good rather than the private profit. Nationalized banks ensure that finance serves people, not just profit. They ensure that our markets serve our national priorities. We must reject the false choice between blind public ownership and blind privatization. Instead, we must choose strong public banking. To privatize these institutions is to surrender our economic sovereignty. If we want a developed India by 2047 that is inclusive and resilient, our banking sector must remain a public bridge for investment and a guardian of justice. Let us stand firm in the belief that India's financial destiny must remain in the hands of the people and dignity of its democracy. Thank you for listening me for these few minutes. I wish you all good health and long life. I wish we will always stay together, and with time the bond will be strongest bond. And one day BFI will be called as the best banking union in the world. I urge all members of our prestigious union to be united and dedicated and fight against injustice like a true warrior. The future is ours. Thank you, Krela, on it for organizing this webinar. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Long life BFI. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Comrade, thank you. Comrade Pranchal, thank you very much. Now you have seen, while presenting Pranchal, he has brought some new points now here. That is regarding the impact of AI. I think that all the comrades, while they are presenting, they are bringing some new points here. I'm not taking much time. Now one more speaker is there. Last speaker, she will be from Bengal. Comrade Srimoy Das from Bengal. She will be presenting on the subject. Nationalist banks should not promote religious ideas. Comrade Srimoy Das. Comrade Srimoy. Admin, please make her co-host. Srimoy is there in the meeting, no? Comrade Manodeep. Srimoy is there, no?
Yes, Srimoy is there.
Yeah, Comrade Srimoy. Comrade admin, please see that Srimoy has sent a message that she's please make him a co-host. Comrade Srimoy. Please. Admin, Comrade Murthy. Comrade Murthy, can you hear me? Tika. Comrade Rajivan, can you please call Comrade Prashant and ask him to make Srimoy co-host? Comrade Rajivan, can you hear me?
Comrade Srimoy Das is already there in the meeting, but she has to unmute her meeting.
Yeah, I have told that our admin has to allow that. Rajivan will call Prashant now. And who is the admin, Comrade Murthy? Maybe it will be Comrade Prashant, no? Please ask him to make a co-host.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry, Comrade Srimoy. Now, Prashant will make you a co-host. All other comrades, this is last speaker. Last speaker is Comrade Srimoy. Srimoy, please try once more. Comrade Srimoy, please try to unmute. No, it's not. Prashant, what happened? Yeah. Now you can unmute. Yeah, sorry.
Yes, he can speak now.
Sorry, comrades. Sorry, comrades. It was a technical issue. I request Comrade Srimoy to present the subject.
Good evening, comrades. Today, on the occasion of Bank Nationalization Day, I congratulate all the employees of public sector bank for keeping up the good fight for employee rights. And I condemn the barbaric assault by Delhi police under control of union government for forcibly removing fasting activist Sonam Wangchuk, bulldozing the democratic right that our constitution has ensured for every citizen. Today, we have assembled here to celebrate the Indian Bank Nationalization Day, a moment that commemorates the vision of building the Indian financial sector under public control to serve the purpose of nation building and to eradicate financial slavery of the common citizen from the Mahajans and to establish a domain of mass banking. The topic I will be discussing is public sector banks should not promote religious ideas, which is not merely a matter of policy preference, but it is a question whether the soul of India, as envisaged by Ambedkar, Gandhi, Nehru, and countless other freedom fighters, will survive the onslaught of majoritarianism. The word secular was not an ornamental addition to the preamble during the 42nd Amendment in 1976. It was a truth already laid down in Article 14, which guarantees equality before law, Article 15, which prohibits any discrimination on basis of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth, Article 25, which secures the right to freely profess and practice one's religion, and Article 27, which stipulates that no person shall be compelled to pay any religious tax. The Constitution does not bar an individual from practicing their faith, but it draws a clear line when it comes to the state, the nation. The state has no religion. The state cannot favor a deity or a scripture or a ritual. Hence, when a government-sponsored institute, be it a school, a hospital, a police station, or a public sector bank, engages in the promotion of religious ideas, it violates the basic structured doctrine established by the Supreme Court in 1973 in the historic judgment of the Kesavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala case, which dictates that even the parliament cannot alter the essential features of the constitution. And secularism is undeniably one of those features. Today, I want to discuss about how our public sector banks are being weaponized to dismantle the secular fabric of India. It is a circular here, a canteen menu there, a calendar hung on a wall, a song sung at morning assembly. When a bank manager or an employee places a religious symbol on their counter, or even a calendar hanging on the premises of the wall, depicting any deity or a scripture where a customer comes to avail any banking service, that citizen remains no longer just a customer. They are a captive audience forced to interact with a theology they may or may not consent to. This is not accommodation. It is a coercion dressed in piety. It is about imposing a cultural and ritualistic hegemony on the workplace, attacking the right to dignity and equal treatment under Article 14 and Article 15. This is what we might call bureaucratic theology, a creeping assault that might seem soft, but it blurs the line between the individual and the state so thoroughly that resistance begins to feel like disrespect. Consider the pattern. A public sector bank management orders in 2021 dictating dress code for Navaratri celebration within the bank premise. Navaratri, a religious festival, is no longer presented as a voluntary observance. An employee not observing the dress code was threatened to be imposed with a fine of rupees 200. Though the circular was later withdrawn under pressure from the unions, yet the idea was to forcefully impose a particular religious belief on all staff, whether they belong to the faith or not. This is a state-sponsored patronage of religious ideas. This spatial capture is even more blatant with events like Ganesh Puja on the bank's premises, or the practice of offering namaz prayers within the bank premises, or even the recent introduction of corporate culture like Surprise Santa celebrated during the Christmas. A public bank premise which belongs to the Republic and its citizens equally gets transformed into a place of worship. The consent of an employee or a customer from another religion or faith becomes irrelevant. Their discomfort is a problem for them to manage privately. The spatial capture then extends aggressively to the most basic human need, that is, food. In that same public sector bank, we often see an order that no non-vegetarian food be cooked in the canteen on particular days or months. The dietary choices of many Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Dalits are predominantly non-vegetarian. So, the dietary abstention should be voluntary and not forced upon. The food fascism finds its most starking expression in the no beef in canteen mandate imposed by a public sector bank management in Kerala. Our constitution explicitly protects the right to food and livelihood and cultural practices around food as an integral part of personal liberty under Article 21. It is not only a question of banning beef or pork or vegetarian or non-vegetarian food from the canteen menu. The bank management is not only making a culinary suggestion, it is declaring certain cultural and dietary practices as profane and unwelcome. BFI's protest against such diktat was a defense of plurality against bureaucratic majoritarianism. A more subtle but equally troubling trend has emerged in recent years. The distribution of gifts by the bank management amongst staff and even customers on the occasion of Diwali, a religious festival. Unions, including BFI, rightly questioned this practice and urged their members not to accept such gifts. The objection is not to festivity or generosity. It is to the selective patronage of one religious tradition by an institution that belongs to everyone. If the management wishes to express appreciation for its employees, it could do so on Republic Day or Independence Day or even the foundation of day of that bank, occasions that belong to all rather than a select few. Choosing Diwali for an official gift giving sends a message, however softly, about patronizing a particular religious idea. An employee from other faith or even an atheist gets into an awkward situation of either accepting the gift that carries different religious connotation or declining and seemingly be ungrateful. This is the gradual erosion of the secular fabric and the idea of equal membership in the institutional family. The phenomena finds yet another dimension in the institutionalization of prayer. In some public sector banks, the working day begins with devotional songs like Itni Shakti Hame Dena Data, a prayer to the divine giver for strength. The song itself may or may not adhere to any particular religion, but it is unmistakably a devotional act. An atheist or a rationalist colleague who is compelled to stand through a mandatory morning prayer is being forced into a ritual of worship they philosophically reject. That is a direct assault on their freedom of conscience under Article 25, which not only protects the right to profess and practice religion, but equally gives the right not to believe, not to pray, and not to participate in any religious observance. This brings me to the cornerstone of this creeping assault, the brazen violation of Article 27, which specifies that no person shall be compelled to pay any religious taxes. Yet, in 2022, we witnessed that the government, through its various financial channels and alternate delivery platforms, actively promoted donation for construction of a temple under the allure of tax deduction under Section 80G of Income Tax Act. Under the Income Tax Act, general donations to religious organizations or trusts are not eligible for tax exemption, though an exception exists for donation to notified places of worship of historic or archaeological importance. The Ram Mandir, a newly constructed temple, was brought under this framework, and many public sector banks became the collection agents, which is highly debatable. Some may argue that all these practices are merely about respecting the majority culture, but it is a fallacious argument. Secularism is not the appeasement of minorities, it is the equal distancing of the state from all religions, including the majority. It is not about making our workplace sterile or joyless. It is to make them constitutional. Instead of religious icons, let the walls of our bank be adorned with the fundamental duties and the preamble. Let us celebrate Republic Day and Independence Day with the same vigor we reserve for religious festivals in our bank. A government sponsored bank employee has every right to be deeply devout in their home, to observe every fast and every festival their faith prescribes. But the moment they sit behind the desk, governed by the Republic, they must shed their religious identity and cater to the customer with equal sense of respect and responsibility. All employee organizations have a critical role to play. The union's role is to educate members on the constitutional values and assert the right to a workplace free from religious coercion. A public sector bank promoting religious ideas is committing a profound betrayal to the soul of our Constitution. We must resist this systematic constitutional sabotage and try to organize our comrades at the same time to protest against other heinous attacks by the government through administrative machinery, like the attack on employees' hard-earned rights through the implementation and imposition of the new 4 labor codes. It is a very shrewd strategy of the government to disintegrate the movement of the bank employees through multifarious attacks simultaneously. Hence, on this Indian Bank Nationalization Day, let us renew our demand that the state do its job and nothing more. Let the altar remain in the heart and the ledger remain in the hands of a neutral, secular, sovereign, socialist, democratic republic. That is the India our constitution promises. That is the India we must demand. Thank you all. Revolutionary greetings. Long live workers' unity. Long live BFI.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Comrade Srimoy. You have well presented. See, Srimoy, while presenting, she has quoted Keshavananda Bhai case. Not only that, the dress code during the time of Navaratri festival and Ganesh Puja incident, Diwali gift, everything it was explained well. See, from Venugopal to Comrade Srimoy Das, 9 speakers were there, 5 subjects. How it was presented, you might have noted. See, before this, you may be remembering our women's subcommittee once conducted a program as we are conducting this now. That only prompted Bank Employees Federation of India Central Committee to think about such a program that our comrades, whether they can present it. It can be, we thought of having such a program here, and you might have heard young comrades. That too, out of the 9 comrades, 4 of them were women comrades. So our special greetings to all the comrades who have attended this meeting. Not only that, their presentation is, of course, they have done a very great job, well presented. So I think that our office bearers and our central committee members, we are all really proud that our young comrades, that we are now very proud because our organization, the future of our organization, future of Bank Employees Federation of India means future of banking industry, future of nationalized banks. It is with the hand of these young comrades. We are very happy that such a program has been conducted very well. I'm not taking much time because you may be knowing we started the program at sharp 6:30. And at a point, around 350 comrades attended this program. And by this time, around 175 comrades were there. When Comrade Srimoy Das started her deliberation, 175 comrades were there. 50% of the comrades still remain. Because we know in a online webinar that every problems we are facing, everything we know. So I'm not taking much time. We have to conclude the meeting. I request Comrade Secretary, Comrade Hari Rao, to propose the vote of thanks, official vote of thanks. Over to Comrade Hari Rao, or Secretary. Comrade Hari Rao, can you hear me? Yeah, Hari Rao, now you can speak. You are now co-host.
Yes, comrade. Yes, comrade. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Dear comrades, it's a great occasion that BFI has organized a webinar on the year of Bank Nationalization Day to be addressed by our own comrades as guest speakers. It all started with the National Youth Convention held in Bengaluru to involve young generation in trade union activities, and we conducted group discussion among themselves on different subjects. On the occasion of International Women's Day also, we have conducted a similar webinar with our own comrades addressing the webinar. In the National Women Convention held in Kozhikode also, we have conducted a debate program participated by our young serving comrades. Today, we have conducted a webinar participated our own 9 comrades with great enthusiasm. All the speakers have prepared well and have deliberated very clearly on different subjects. It's a great opportunity for all of us to listen to them, to view our young comrades, our young generation. I thank all the speakers on behalf of BFI and on my personal behalf. I thank our president for conducting the webinar with proper time management. I thank our general secretary for his introductory speech and welcome address. And I thank our Kerala State Unit for providing their Zoom platform and conducting this webinar without any interruption. I thank all the participants, our senior leaders, our comrades from all over India for participating in this webinar and making it a successful one. I thank one and all for successful conduct of this webinar on Bank Nationalization Day. Thank you, comrades.
Yes. So, Comrade, can we conclude? Comrade General Secretary, you want to add anything? Nothing more. Okay. So, thank you very much. Thank you very much for cooperating with the chair. So, I hereby declare that our webinar is over. Okay, Comrade. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you all, comrade. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all of you. Good night, comrade. Thank you. Thank you, President.
Okay. Okay. Good night to all.
Good night to all.